Hello, 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 everyone. I am Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we help Black women create their financial independence map and identify the tools for success so you can live life on your own terms. Thank you for joining us for tonight, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss any of these great gems in the future. And so today we have a great speaker. I don't care where you are in your career, it's always an opportunity for growth. It's always an opportunity to say, what is next for me? What are the next challenges? And always to be prepared for that next challenge as well. So today we have Brittany Hayles. She is the founder of Hayles Consulting, a firm dedicated to teaching people how to strategically take ownership of their career, and a marketing ABP at Google. Brittany's experience in project development and time management in the tech sector, along with her experience in recruiting and sales, has enabled her to influence executives and amass 150,000 views on YouTube. Brittany holds a business management degree from Quinnipiac University, and she takes pride in providing career advancing information to marginalized communities through mentorship and coaching. We can never have enough coaches. We can never have enough mentors. And so thank you so much, Brittany, for being here. Tell us a little bit about the clients that you work with and some of the services that you're providing for them.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I love these spaces because they're needed. And even if people don't realize they need it, when they stumble upon it, they realize that they needed it. So I appreciate you for inviting me and even creating this space. My business started from what I like to call informal coaching that grew into formal coaching. So throughout my career, people have always come to me for advice. What should I do here? What should I do there? And I started to realize that I was a thought leader in the career space. So I'm like, hey, I might as well turn this into something formal, make a YouTube platform out of it where I can share information, not just with the people who I have access to, but people all over the world. And the main premise of why I started the business and the YouTube channel is because throughout my career, I've been navigating corporate blindly. My mom is in the health field as a nurse, phenomenal nurse, been a nurse for like almost 20 years. My dad, he's a mechanic. And everyone around me, like I'm the only person in my family who entered into the corporate arena. So I had none of the information that was needed to navigate. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, resume, okay. My mom's been once you're a nurse, you don't apply to jobs, you just get referrals and hope for the best. And my mom's phenomenal at what she does, so she's her own referral. So a lot of the information that I needed to excel in my career, my mom was already killing it. So she was like, girl, go do your thing. So I really had no idea what I was doing, and I was figuring out one step at a time. And as I started to figure it out, I was like, oh, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. So my business was very much founded on this idea of I want to be the sounding board, the mentor, the coach. I want to break down the barriers, the informational barriers within how to navigate corporate spaces, how to navigate entrepreneurial spaces, because there are a lot of barriers to entry, and there are a lot of barriers to success, and there are a lot of barriers to growth. And if the information is not shared, then those barriers are going to continue. So I look at my business and the clients I work with as just breaking down those barriers step by step, whether it be helping people define what should their career look like, how do you align purpose and career, how do I show up confidently in interviews, how does my resume, how can my resume better portray me confidently? And if you've noticed, what I've said a million times is confidence, because that's one of the biggest things I focus on with my clients. And honestly, I believe is a part of my purpose here on earth is to help people with their confidence journey. And I truly believe that the main ingredient to a successful career is confidence. So a lot of times when I'm having conversations with my clients, even if it's about, how to deal with a tough manager or how to deal with a toxic work environment, it always goes back to that confidence conversation. So yes, my business is very much founded on the idea of breaking down those informational barriers with navigating corporate, but breaking down those barriers really is the main ingredient, and the key is confidence.
Now, what is your advice, especially in terms of confidence versus cockiness? I
Ooh,
know there can be a fine line between the two. How do you show up as confident, but not aggressive, overly aggressive, especially as Black women?
yeah,
We're always like teetering on that. We don't want to do too much, but
yeah,
how do we show up kind of with the right amount of confidence?
yeah. So I would say the main driver of confidence versus cockiness is receipts. If you don't have the receipts, then it's cocky. If you have the receipts, it's confident. If I say, I'm the flyest in this room and I'm a great dresser, then I'm the flyest in the room. And at the end of the day, it's subjective. So some people are going to think I'm fly, some people are not going to. But it really comes down to, what do you believe in yourself and what do you have the ability to prove and what do you have the receipts for? As Black women, any space we show up in, because of perceived notions based off of media and just white supremacy in general, when we're in certain spaces, there is a level of threat that just comes with our presence. And I tell my Black female clients, I don't care, and neither should you. Because again, if you have the receipts, you have to show up confidently, because everyone's going to feel uncomfortable when you walk into the room, and there's nothing you can do about that, especially once they realize how phenomenal you are, how intelligent you are, how accomplished you are, how worthy you are. And the fact that that's even more intimidating. But the more you show up and don't dim your light and just bring everything that you have to the table, they're eventually going to have no choice but to realize this is who you are, you're an asset, and they need to work with you accordingly. And I know there is a fine line, but I know people say there's a fine line, but there isn't. The line is literally just, if you don't have the receipts, don't bring it up. But if you have it, you got it. And just show up.
Now, that's a really good point in terms of the receipts, too. So, one of the ways that people show up, especially if you're out there trying to grow your career, trying to grow your network, is your resume. Is
Right.
that the best way or the only way to kind of show your receipts? Or are there other avenues or resources that people should be leaning on?
Oh, everywhere. I say, especially in the digital age that we're in now, everything is your receipt, your resume, your social media presence. So even your Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you have a YouTube channel, even when you walk out into the world, like, you are a walking receipt. So yes, your resume is the physical copy of what you're going to hand in to an employer. But if you think about it, in the day and age that we're in right now, networking is such a huge part of what we do and who we are. So like I said, I was talking about how you dress, the flyest in the room. If you go to a conference and you're showing up to that conference in your favorite outfit and you got your hair done and you're just feeling really, really good, that alone is your receipt. People don't even care what you do. They don't care how good you are. Just the fact that you're showing up so self-aware and so clearly in love with yourself and so confident, people are going to be naturally gravitating towards you and want to work with you. Then they're going to ask you, what do you do? So I always say, like, yes, your resume is just, it's just the icing on the cake, but you are a walking receipt and you have to show up in the world constantly as that. Like, even the other day, there's a chicken and waffle place down the street from me, and the woman was like, "What do you do? You give me this eye like you do something." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I do this, da da da." She's like, "I knew it." And from there, we exchanged information, and she would love to be one of my clients. So, like I always tell people, you are literally a walking resume. So yes, there's your resume, but if you leave it there, that's just not going to be enough. You got to show up.
So, you never know when your next client will be at the same place you pick up your chicken and waffles.
Right, right.
And that's a good point too, in terms of, so you're helping individuals maneuver corporate America, but
Yeah.
also people who are saying either they want to be an entrepreneur or maybe they're like, I jumped out here and things didn't necessarily kind of pop like they wanted to. What are some of the guidance or things to think of there if someone's saying, okay, I'm trying all these things and either the career advancement isn't working or growing my business isn't working? What are some of the mistakes that you're seeing or advice that you would say to those people?
Yeah. So usually when your career is not working, for me, I always see it boil down to one thing. Your relationship building needs improvement. your relationship building with management, with your colleagues, with your peers, it needs improvement. Your manager probably has no idea what you're doing on a regular basis, or they don't respect what you're doing, which is a problem. Your peers don't respect you, or they don't know what you're doing, or you don't have a relationship with them at all. Career advancement is all about relationships, and we see it over and over and over again. Is it frustrating? Yes, because it's almost like your work, at sometimes it feels like your work means nothing, but it's just the reality of the world that we live in. And a lot of times that is really the most consistent thing that I see. And I encourage people, if you're having trouble advancing in your career, be honest with yourself. Don't be defensive. Do you have a good relationship with your manager, your peers, and your leaders? Most of the time they'll be like, not really. You're like, I go to work, I put my head down, and I go home. That's just not how it works. You can't do that. People want to help who they feel comfortable with, who they have a great relationship with. So you do have to build relationship.
I think that's a really good point, because people are like, listen, I do my job.
Yeah.
And then I clock out and go home.
Yeah.
So if you have been on the job like that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and that's your reputation, can you change that?
Oh,
or do you just need to change your environment?
Absolutely. And now it's not going to be easy, because you kind of solidified your brand as the woman or man who comes and leaves and is like, this was cute, but gotta go. You've definitely solidified that brand, but you can absolutely turn that brand around. And I would say start with your manager first. Start a clean slate, create an agenda for an upcoming performance review or a meeting, and just have a meeting of minds and say, hey, this is how I moved before, and here's why I did it. And just be honest and transparent with them. I'm introverted, or, I'm very focused on family, or I've never navigated corporate spaces before, so this is new to me. Just be transparent with them and be like, can you hold me accountable to speaking up in meetings? Can you hold me accountable to leading meetings? Whatever is going to make you help you step out of your comfort zone, have your manager hold you accountable to that. And then what I recommend, to build that rapport with your team and have a better team experience, is to literally start having one-on-one conversations with your team members. It will feel kind of uncomfortable at first because you have zero relationship with them. But finding a commonality, especially if you know that you have something in common with one of your other coworkers and colleagues, and then once you create a bond with one of them, start inviting other people and other people and other people until you have like your entire group or your entire team feels like a little bit more natural of a conversation. But the manager is definitely top of mind, number one relationship for sure. So start there.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, relationships are so big. And I think one thing, sometimes you're like, I ain't got nothing in common with this. Maybe they're older, maybe a different race, different sex. You're like, we don't do none of the same things. Monday morning, everybody's like, so what'd you do over the weekend? You're like, none of your business.
Right. You don't care. It's one of those questions I'm just asking out of obligation, but I really don't care.
This is going nowhere. I think that's a really good point in terms of like those relationships and solidifying those. But what if you're saying, I don't want to be here, and so you're trying to maneuver outside of your current company or your current department, or maybe even your current industry? Are there some tips in order to kind of maneuver that change?
Yeah. And even with that change, I still encourage people, if your natural behavior is very introverted at work and very heads down, you're just going to take that everywhere. And you're going to have the same problem at the next industry, at the next company, whatever. Like, people always think the grass is greener on the other side, but your situation over there could honestly end up being worse. You just never know. Or it could be the same, or it could be better. You have no idea. So I always recommend to people, still start with that relationship building right there at your current role, so that you can get used to that. So when you get into your new role, it's even better. But to transfer over into that newer role of whatever you're looking for, obviously the fastest and least heartbreaking transition is always just doing a lateral move. So thinking about the position that you are already in and doing that at another company, or in another department at your company, or in another industry. So if you're a recruiter at a bank, then you just go to be a recruiter in a retail company. Same exact job role, very easy move because they already know the transferable skills are there. One of the more difficult moves is trying to change your job scope entirely, moving to a new company, moving to a new industry. Harder because now you're having to prove on a document, on a piece of paper, that you are more eligible and more like a better candidate than somebody who is doing a lateral move or trying to do a lateral move. And like I said before, you are your own walking receipt, which is why I encourage people when you are trying to make a move that isn't lateral, you got to be a walking receipt. You need to network. You need to go on LinkedIn and find people at those companies, in those jobs, and in those industries that you're interested in working with, and build relationships with them. Go to conferences, go to the coffee shop, talk to random people. Like, you never know who you're talking to. You could be talking to somebody who literally works at the company that you see yourself in. But yeah, it literally all comes back to being your own walking receipt, because the fastest way to get into that non-lateral job is through networking, for sure.
I think that's a great point. Somebody actually said, this is great. I had the exact conversation with a friend a few weeks ago. She's going to send this to YouTube, to the Money Monday, to her. So thank you for sharing that. Sometimes it's like people don't want to hear it from you. So they need a third party to say, yeah, you can't just,
and that's me.
be like, I'm going to walk in with my shades on, straight to my desk, get my coffee.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't, especially what tends to happen for us, especially as Black women or women of color. We are usually the only or one of very few in our space. And like you were saying before, the commonality is not there a lot. They don't know what Shea Moisture is. They have no idea what Love and Hip Hop is. They don't care about Real House. Like, who is Nene Leakes? Like, they don't know any of that stuff. So relatability is really hard, but that's just how the world is. Like, we make up, I think, 14% of this country. So realistically, it's just everywhere we go, this is what we're going to experience. So you have to make the best of it. Like, fine, or else you're just going to be miserable. Like, you're just sitting in your own misery. Like, I have made connections with managers who are the exact opposite of me. Exact opposite. We just find, once you know, like, they're a nice person, you just find that you find some commonality, something. Just have a conversation and it will come up eventually.
Now, are there differences depending on industry? Because there are some industries where like everybody is pals and everybody comes in and you sit in like an open format. And there are some industries that are come in, do your work, get your head down, maybe it's the analytical space or whatever that might be. Are there differences in what you should expect depending on the industry that you're in?
Yeah, there's definitely differences in industries. And I would say industries and also job types. Because I work in the tech industry. So in the non-tech side of a tech company, it's definitely a lot more open, a lot more verbal communication, whereas our tech side may not be as verbal and open. However, on the tech side, the people who are progressing are those who are making that extra effort to break that very awkward barrier that can often exist in tech spaces or even finance spaces. I have a lot of clients who work on Wall Street or in accounting firms, and they're like, this is very heads down. But the ones that are making it through are the ones who are making an exceeded effort to have a relationship with their manager, set up 101s, even if it's monthly. You have to take ownership of your career. So even if traditionally you're working in a field or at a job or in a company that's not as open and friendly and like, let's kumbaya and sit around the campfire, like, and not that you need to create that because that's going to feel forced, but you do need to like blaze your own trail and set up a relationship with a manager in ways that nobody else has. And they will appreciate that for sure.
Is there a difference in, especially we're in this virtual environment. So of course, if you're in the office, hey, how you doing? You see people at the water cooler. You can ask people, do you want to join me for lunch? But if you're in a place where you're communicating mostly through like a Slack or a Teams or whatever that might be, are there limitations that you see there in terms of how people can have that reputation and make those connections in that type of environment?
Yeah. it's crazy because I feel so bad for people onboarding in this hybrid or virtual environment because it's very like, there's no emotion behind it in a sense. You're not really having those water cooler conversations. Like everything has to be a meeting. However, what's come with this hybrid and virtual environment, the pro and con, the con is meetings. So many meetings are popping up everywhere.
All day long. Every hour of the hour.
But the pro of that is that it's giving you multiple arenas to either lead a meeting, speak up in meetings, or be visible and present in meetings. So before you kind of had to figure out, okay, who am I gonna start an awkward conversation with today? Versus now you're in a meeting 24/7. So you have to create the space to even ask your manager, hey, can I lead a portion of this meeting? I just analyzed this piece of data. I would love to talk about it in our upcoming meeting. Like, look for opportunities to have visibility in meetings. And don't be afraid to set up meetings with people. And I always start off with 15-minute meetings when I'm like doing a coffee chat, a virtual coffee chat, because it feels a lot less, damn, I got to sit on the phone with this person for 30 minutes.
The awkward, hey.
And oftentimes, like it's almost never awkward. So it always trails into that 30-minute block anyways. But just schedule 15 minutes at first if you're just meeting with a person for the first time. And that feels like it has so much less pressure. And then make a little agenda for yourself of questions you want to ask them so that you feel prepared. But visibility in a virtual world is really all about, you have to speak up in meetings. It's not enough for you to just be in them. Like you got to speak.
Now, if they get that coffee date, they got the 15 minutes on the calendar and like, I don't know what to talk to this person about. What are some ways to open up the conversation? Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. There, how was your weekend, or where do you live? Like what part of if you guys are not in the same state or city, like what part of the city do you live in? How is it there? Those are good openers. And then questions to ask. I always say people love to talk about themselves. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. I don't care how shy you are. Everyone likes to talk about themselves. So when you create your list of questions to ask them ahead of time, great questions are to ask them about career advice. Like what has made them successful in this role? What have been some of their challenges in their career? Do they have any advice for you? Just asking them about their career journey and what they see for themselves. And then naturally, if they're a good conversationalist, it's just going to start to flow from there because they're talking about themselves and now you can interject. But if it's still pretty awkward, then you already have your list of questions where you're literally asking them about their entire life story. And then that you get enough information. And some of the questions in there too, I would definitely try to find whatever you're interested in so that you can have a commonality as well.
Sure. Now, what are some of the mistakes that people make in the connection period?
Like the coffee chats or... Mm-hmm. Okay, so some of the things that drive me absolutely insane when people are trying to connect is, well, it's a little different because a lot of times people are trying to connect with me through LinkedIn. But in the workspace, I would say just not being cognizant of the person's time. And the only way they're going to feel like that is if you're asking them very irrelevant questions, making the conversation very awkward with like the awkward pauses and silences. So I would say that's the biggest mistake. It's just not being cognizant of time, which is why they will definitely appreciate that 15-minute call versus 30 minutes. And then not coming prepared. So it's like you're just in the conversation. And it's pretty obvious that you don't even know why you set this up, but you set it up, but you don't know why you set it up. So just coming prepared is probably... not being prepared, is probably the biggest challenge, I would say.
You brought up a really good point, especially on LinkedIn. So people are on LinkedIn. Hopefully everybody here is on LinkedIn. And we've had a few sessions about, have a real picture.
Yeah.
Picture that is within the last year or so. Don't use your high school yearbook picture. So the very basics. But if someone says, I want to be in this industry. I want to work for this company, and they're reaching out to someone that they don't know and really don't have a connection to. What are some of the best ways to reach out and say, "Hi, stranger. I'd like to get to know you. I'd like to talk about working at your company or being in your industry." What are some of the best ways in order to do that?
Yeah. So right after people loving to talk about themselves is people love compliments. People love flattery. So there's usually a reason why you want to connect with that person, why you want to talk to them. Find something on their profile that really was engaging to you, that really caught your eye, that you enjoy about their career experience or their journey that you really admired. And that should definitely be what you lead with your in your message. Like, I stumbled across your profile and I really admired this experience, or that you just won this award, or that you wrote an article about this. I'm looking to get into this industry. Do you have 15 minutes to talk? And then give them a specific date and time, or some time frames. Say, I'm available Monday through Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Would you be willing to send me your email so that I can send you an invite? Just be very direct. I love when people are direct with me on LinkedIn, because I'm going to be really honest. I want to send you one message and we're done. Like, we close the deal, the meeting's happening. Because most people just don't have time for the back and forth. So the more direct you are, which people are afraid to do because they're like, oh, is this too direct? But it's not. It's not. People don't want to, they want to know. Like, they already know what you're about to ask them. So just get straight.
Like, you want a job. Like, clearly you're here because you want something.
And just give a time frame. And like I said, 15 minutes is like golden. That's really all the time that you need from someone. And most of the time it is going to go over into 30 minutes because the conversation is going well.
And that's a really good point, because you get that person on the phone, and are you on the phone for those 15 minutes learning about them? Are you telling them about you? Are you saying, I know you work at ABC company and I want to work there too, or I know you do X and I want to do that as well? How much are you fitting in terms of a request for help, assistance, job, whatever that is, within that 15 minutes?
Yeah, I would say the beginning of the conversation should start off with you speaking about yourself, but not in a manner of you selling yourself, but in a manner of relating your experience to why you're talking to them. Like, why did you set up this call? Here's what I do as an individual, and here's why I hopped on this call with you, because we align in this way. Now, because we align, I know that you have expertise that I would like to know more about. So can you tell me about XYZZZ in your career journey? And at the end of that call, you can say, hey, I'm really interested in working at your company or in this industry. Would it be okay if I reached out to you later on for a referral? Or would you be willing to send me opportunities as they come along? And if you enjoyed the conversation deeply, you can really ask, like, I've had conversations where we connected so well, and I've asked that person to be my mentor right there, right then and there. Like, hey, do you have availability for 30-minute calls quarterly? Because I loved your energy, I love the advice that you gave, and I see myself being where you are someday. And they're like, sure, whatever.
I think that's a really good point, in terms of, as you're reaching out to people, are you always reaching out for a job? Are you reaching out for a mentor? Are you reaching out for just some guidance to maneuver? Maybe you're on the fence and you're like, I kind of like this company, but I'm not moving. And
Right.
I'm thinking about, do I make the move? Do I move to another company or someone else, kind of what their career path is and how they got there? How do you know which one you're necessarily searching for? Or should you walk into it searching for, this person is at this level I want to ultimately be 5 years from now. Yes, please be my mentor. Or is it, this person has the job I want, please help me get the same job, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I would say that's something you should definitely figure out before the call for clarity. Because like I was saying before, when people get onto a call and have no idea why they're there, and it's very obvious to me, it's like, it's extremely annoying. So definitely before you get on that call with anyone, just say to yourself, at the end of this conversation, do I want this person's help to progress my career through their referral and their expertise? Or do I want their help in the sense of guidance, of being my mentor, being an executive sponsor? And once you have that, like, definitely do not even reach out to them until you have that clearly defined within your own scope and agenda for the conversation. Yeah.
I think that's really big to kind of know where you're going. Don't just, I always say sometimes you have a bad day at work and you're like, I'm leaving this place.
Right, exactly. No, seriously.
Like, I don't know where I want to go. I don't know if I want to do the same job. I just leaving this place. And I
Right.
guess that's how to like map out. So as you're sitting there and you had a bad Monday and you're like, you know what? I am not doing another week or two of this. How do you know when it's time to go? And
Mm.
how do you strategically plot that it's time to go? Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going into 2023 dealing with these people or this job. So how do you start to plot out, okay, these are the next steps that I need to take?
Yeah, it's definitely situational because there are some situations in which I would tell somebody, okay, yeah, it's time to go. And then someone else could be going through that same exact situation. I'm like, I think you could still massage this a little bit. But some of the major ones for me, especially because as Black women and people of color, we have been disadvantaged greatly financially. So the longer we stay in a job that is underpaying us, under promoting us, and under leveling us, it's deeper than finances. Like it's literally holding us back generationally. So if you have, I say everything is worth a year to a year and a half's worth of evaluation. Of course, you can move under a year, but once you hit a year, like, okay, this is a complete waste of my time. So anything to do with pay, promotion, leveling. So I put all of those together in just finances. The other subgroup as well is just ethics in general. Like this company is just going along and not aligned with your ethics, your values at all. They're just doing things that are very shady. You don't want to be there and you're not going to jail for nobody.
Never.
That's definitely a huge red flag that it's time to start looking. And then the other side of it as well is I'm always tell people like you don't necessarily have to love your job, but you shouldn't feel drained by your job. You shouldn't feel like, why am I here? I'm not being challenged. This doesn't align with my interest or my purpose, or it just doesn't bring me any satisfaction whatsoever. It's cool to just to like your job. It doesn't bring you stress. You're just there. Your colleagues are cool. Everyone's great. But if you go to work every day and you're like, why am I here? What am I doing? It's time to evaluate. And I say check in with yourself every 6 months. So even though I'm saying like a year is like, okay, you've been through this for a year, it's time to go. Every 6 months, you need to check in with yourself. Is this job aligning with me financially, ethically, and purposely? If it's not, then it's time to start doing your research and reaching out to people in your network to talk about what their experience is at other companies. I'm not the biggest advocate for like, just jump ship and go if you don't have the financial stability to be able to do so. If you do, sometimes that's just what you have to do. You got to go, like with no plan. But I don't recommend that if you cannot financially afford that, because what's going to happen now, okay, you got rid of the mental fatigue of your job, but now you're adding a new mental fatigue of, I don't got no money. So
that's more than fatigue. That'll beat you down.
Right. So what I recommend to people when you are in a job and you cannot leave immediately, you're on your way out and you're starting your job search and you're starting to network, I want you to not let that job take over your life anymore. You end it at 5 or whatever time you end, 2, 3, 4, like end it. And I want you to find peace with your family, with your friends, like pour into yourself, because your job is already draining. So now you need to really work on cultivating a life outside of work. Find those friends, find your circle, sign up for that fitness class you always wanted to do. Get yourself together, like find yourself. Because if you put all of your time and energy into that exhausting job that you're trying to leave, it's just not worth it. So I know it's hard to do because you have this you have a job that's draining you, but it's going to drain you even more if you're not putting yourself first. So in that journey of finding that new job, definitely find yourself too.
I think that's a really good point. I think it's so easy for us to jump in and dive in, and we're like, okay, I'm giving my all to this job.
Yeah.
And you lose so much of yourself
You,
in that moment. And before you actually leave, or if you're in a situation, and I definitely, we talked to people before and they're like, and then I hated my job and then I was finally let go. And
yeah.
it's like, you actually got peace
Yeah.
when you were let go, and you wouldn't let go. Like, you were holding on to this burning match and you wouldn't let go.
Mhm.
But to just come up with that moment to say, this is not the place for me,
Yeah.
set some boundaries.
Hmm.
I think the new term is what, the quiet quitting. So
Yeah.
set some boundaries, and then you focus where you actually want to be, opposed to continuously giving yourself to some place you don't necessarily even want to be. Um,
Exactly. Which
so I think that's a really big thing. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that you even talk about as people are strategizing and figuring out what next and where to next, because you have a YouTube channel as well. So
Mhm.
what are some of those topics that you're talking about even on your YouTube channel, as people are saying, what next? I hate here. Or maybe I need more money. I'm not being paid enough. All of those kind of things. What are some of those tips that people can expect on that side on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, on my YouTube channel, I think I've covered every topic related to career. Anything else that I add, any new videos I create are just going to be going in depth more on specific topics. But one of my most watched videos is about salary negotiation, which let me know that everything that I need to know. Everyone is being underpaid and they know it, and they know it, and that's enough. That's enough. That's all the research that I need. And a lot of people do come to me for that. The other one that's really watched for me as well is navigating toxic work environments.
Oh,
So
we.
people who are working in spaces that they know are just draining them emotionally. And then my third watch video, I cannot remember. Oh, the idea of like, I don't dream of labor. I'm just here to get this money and get out, and basically retiring early. So those are the main three concept videos that have done really well on my channel, but I talk about a little bit of everything, honestly. Um, but it's interesting because those three things tell me everything I need to know about majority of people's career experience. They are either feeling underpaid, undervalued, or like, I cannot do this forever. So how do I get out of this?
And I just dropped the link in, so definitely check out her page. And I think that's so on point. One is, Black women, we already know, based on where the income gap is, we work a whole extra almost year
Yeah.
to get where white men are paid. So we already know a lot of times we're underpaid. So head on over there and negotiate your salary.
Yeah.
But if you've been here for any period of time, we talk about financial independence, financial independence, financial independence. So you can walk away, you can take a break, you could decide this toxic work environment. You don't even have to stay there long enough to find another job. You just need a moment.
Yeah.
You need yoga in the morning and peace at night. And so this is not the place for you. So I think it really aligns. So it's definitely another channel that you can head on over and hit the subscribe button over there too,
Yes.
and get some of that information, because I think it's so important to have these resources,
Mhm.
and definitely have people that you can reach out to. So if you're in your career, and I know it's a bunch of people that are probably at this point where they're said, maybe I missed the boat. So, everybody and their mama was getting a new job 6 months ago. And now everybody's talking about, is there going to be a recession? So I need to just stay on this job. Now, what would you say to people that are saying, my mama said, don't leave that good job because it's about to be a recession?
Yeah, no,
What do you
I'm
feel
one of those
about
people that sees both sides. I understand the fear of taking a risk of saying, hey, let me go to this place. Because, like I said, the grass always looks green on the other side until you realize that it's fake grass. And then you're like, wow, what did I do here? So another major thing when you're getting ready to leave your job, especially when I see people who are habitual job hoppers, is they may be lacking clarity around what is it that they specifically want. So sometimes, especially in this environment, we know we are about to head into a very unstable financial situation. It isn't necessarily that you don't like your job. You feel like you're being paid well, but maybe you're looking for a better work environment. maybe you don't have anything in common with your colleagues, you feel very distant from them, whatever it may be, which I actually had a client like this. But then I had to ask her, do you really care to have like these really deep emotional relationships with your manager and your colleagues? Are you just looking to be friendly with them and get along? She was like, yeah, I actually really don't care. I'm like, well, then there's your answer. Like, I feel like you're probably looking for emotional support at work in a place that you could actually be getting it outside of work. You could be looking for purpose outside of work, which is probably what you're trying. Like, you're putting all your purpose into your 9 to 5 instead of looking for like what really fulfills you and what do you really love. So when she put into that perspective, she was like, I actually don't hate my job. I just don't have anything to do after it. So like
And I think that's a part of like structure in your life, because
right.
so much of our life sometimes revolves around our job, and so
Yeah.
we don't know that another part of life even exists.
Right. So I always, when it may not even be that specific scenario of, finding purpose. Sometimes it can just be like you're not being paid enough. Have you ever asked for more money? No. Okay. Ask for more money. Like,
It sounds so simple. It's like,
right. Yeah. Right. But sometimes it really just is that simple. Like really check in with yourself and see like, why am I leaving this job? Is this something that I can have a symptom for? I mean, sorry, have a like a prescription for here? Like, is it something that I can treat where I don't have to leave? Now, in the case where you do have to leave, if you have to leave, you have to leave. Look for that job that is extreme. Like, look for stability before leaving. So, in this specific situation, I'm going to stress it even more. No, I don't recommend that you just leave your job right now and not have anything lined up. Even if you may be really financially stable, because anything can happen. And in a recession, hiring freezes start happening, companies stop hiring, all types of things start happening. But especially in these scenarios, obviously, anytime you're heading into a new job, you should be negotiating. But us knowing that a recession or financial instability is looming, as you navigate and start trying to move out of your current job into a new one, you have to emphasize stability, stability, stability. So negotiate your salary, negotiate equity, negotiate literally everything in your compensation package, in your job offer, negotiate it. Try to get it to as high as possible so that you have even more financial security, because that's really what you are tackling. And also start asking that company, like look into the company's history, like what was their financial standing in the last recession? How financially stable are they? Like, are you moving into an industry that's stable? Or are you moving into an industry that's brand new? Are you moving into a startup that just got funding? Or
it'd be a big deal. Yeah.
I, I'm not
Some venture capital, something, and they're like, we don't want to invest there anymore.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't do it, but I'm just saying like these are things to take into consideration with knowing that we're about to head into financially unstable grounds where a startup is a baby. Like they're just figuring things out. Whereas a very established company who's been around for 20, 30 years, not to say that they don't have the chance of instability, but the likelihood is a lot less than like a brand new baby toddler company. So definitely fight for that pay if you are going to leave, and then also do your own research to really understand if the company you're moving to is financially stable and can survive the looming.
Whatever we're gonna enter into. Cycle, there's ups and downs. That's
Oh yeah,
part of what we're dealing with. But I think that's part of, can you deal with it? You're
right,
moving into something different. Are you downsizing in terms of your career? Like, you know what? I don't care if I make less. I just want to work less.
right.
All of those things are possibilities too. And in terms of if someone's like, I'm trying to figure out if this makes sense, what services, because you have your consulting business, what services do you actually offer? So someone can go on your website. I'm dropping the link in there now and say, Brittany, I need some help.
Yeah.
What services are they hiring you for?
So my main service that people hire me for is career coaching. It's a 30-minute session. When people hear 30 minutes, they're like, whoa, that's it? I'm like, that's more than enough. With me, we're getting straight to the point. Because before our call, I have an intake form where I ask you to be as detailed as possible about what's going on in your career, what do you need help with, so that when we get on the call, We're getting straight to solutions, straight to possible outcomes, straight to strategizing. What does this look like for you? And on those calls, we talk about anything career related, anything entrepreneurial related. Just recently, I had a call from a mom she's been a full-time mom for the past 10 years, and she's looking to come back into working. We're in a whole new landscape. So she's trying to figure out how to navigate that. Everything from that to, I have another client who just recently moved into a new company that she thought the grass was going to be greener, working with a manager who was just giving her a really hard time, micromanaging, not being valued, all of that. So I talk to people about whatever you want to talk about. You have full ownership of the conversation. I'm just here as a sounding board, first and foremost, because I love to listen. And then secondly, my gift is just looking from the outside lens, asking you clarifying questions so that we really understand what the true problem is. Because sometimes people think one problem is a problem and is really something else, and then finding solutions for whatever that problem is. Or if not even solutions, sometimes I can't give you a solution. It's a choice that you have to make on your own. But we're going to list out the pros and cons of each decision so that you can clearly choose which one is best for you.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah. If you're feeling stuck, sometimes you just need someone to help you say, like you said, it might not be the job. It might just be the way you're structuring your life.
Yeah.
And you need an outside voice, an outside eye to say, that's not your problem, girl. Like, it's not those people. It's you. It's what you're doing. It's what you're not doing. It's what you're not actually pushing for your next step. Or maybe you don't know what your next step is, and you just need that sounding board to get you there. So I want to say thank you so much for all these great gems. Hopefully, if y'all got some more time tonight, go check out those videos to get you some more money. Negotiate your salary. Figure out that toxic environment. And so all of those things are over on Brittany's page. And I dropped the link in for her consulting as well. So you can go ahead and get your 30 minutes, chat a little bit about what's next for you. And as always, share with us what that success is and what you've been able to accomplish as you are working towards your next part of your future. And so any last words, Brittany, for the ladies?
Yeah, I always, my parting words for women in general, especially Black women and women of color, greatness comes naturally to us. Like the whole idea of Black girl magic. We navigate spaces in a way that we just take no resources and somehow figure it out. And because that comes so naturally to us, it's very easy for us to not realize how much work goes into what we do and how great we are. So I always recommend and remind people to show up. And even if it was a piece of cake and easy for you to do because you're just that amazing and very resourceful, you have to let people know and remind them that your greatness cannot be taken for granted. So even though you made lemonade with no lemons, you need to let them know there was no lemons and you made it. Not just that you made the lemonade, which is what we tend to do. We're just like, oh yeah, that was easy. Yeah, right. Yeah, all the time. And it just doesn't validate how phenomenal we are and how great we are. So even though we have the Black girl magic, which is definitely a gift, it can easily be something that holds us back because we just do not see how much work goes in to being a Black woman. Showing up every day.
Every day we got to show up. Yes.
Like how much we have to show up. So that's always my parting words for us. Like, do not downplay or be humble about how much we have to show up, because we be showing up
all day. Yes. I love somebody posted something earlier today and they listed Black women doing things that have never been done in the industries before.
Yeah.
And so it is all the impossibles. I'm wearing my the lip bar TLB.
Yes.
And somebody said, ain't nobody gonna buy that. Don't nobody want that. And
yeah.
Here she is.
Yes. And there
So
she
we are
is.
making things out of nothing,
Nothing.
where everyone doubted us and thought it wasn't possible. So whatever you're thinking, it's
Hmm.
possible. We're doing bigger things than what people can even envision.
Right. And make sure you always lean into the fact that people told you it was impossible and you did it. And that says it alone.
Yeah. So tell them to shut up and do it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. I hope you are clicking on the links and then get in contact with Brittany. And thank you so much, Brittany, for being with us
Thank
today. It
you. I
means so.
appreciate you.
We appreciate you. We love you. And until next time, we will see you next Monday. Have a great evening.
Have a good one. Bye. Nice meeting you all.